The night I learned what my family thought I was worth, my son had $12 million within reach and still told me to ask his sister. Not for a vacation. Not for a loan to cover a bad habit. For surgery. I was sitting in my truck outside St. Mark's Hospital with a tumor in my lung and a billing estimate in my hand, $3,500 before they would even schedule the operating room. My son, Grant, was in a steakhouse celebrating the biggest account of his career. Glasses clinked behind him. People laughed. I told him the truth anyway. "That's not my responsibility, Dad," he said. "You spent 10 years making bad decisions. I can't keep carrying your dead weight." Then my wife, Elaine, told me not to ruin Grant's big night. "Sophie has a steady teacher job," she said. "Ask her." That sentence settled inside me harder than the tumor. I am Thomas Wade, 58 years old, from Rosenberg, Texas. I live in a tired 3-bedroom house off FM 762, the kind of house you buy young and promise yourself you will fix up. By the time this story begins, I was driving a forklift 6 days a week, coming home smelling like cardboard, diesel, and failure. But I was not always a failure. 10 years earlier, I had been a small real estate investor. I bought 60 acres past Simonton because the Grand Parkway expansion was supposed to come through nearby. People called me smart back then. Elaine bragged about me at church. Grant asked how long before we were rich. Then an old pipeline on a neighboring tract ruptured. Oil seeped into the water table before anyone caught it. My land was locked under a federal clean-up order. I could not sell it. I could not build on it. I could only pay taxes on dirt that banks suddenly treated like poison. Credit lines disappeared. My partner walked. Elaine stopped asking how I felt and started asking how I would fix it. Grant was 21 when everything fell apart. In his mind, I had gambled away his future because I could no longer pay for the life he thought he deserved. He never forgave me for that. Sophie was different. She was 26, a 4th-grade teacher in Katy, and the only person who still looked at me like I was a man instead of a warning sign. 2 nights after Elaine slid another past-due bill across our kitchen table and told me to fix it, Sophie came over with chicken and rice in a foil pan. She kissed the top of my head and frowned at my cough. "You're seeing Dr. Mercer," she said. "It's allergies. It's Thursday at 9. Don't argue." Dr. Alan Mercer did not smile when he came back into the exam room. He set a folder down between us like it weighed more than both of us. "Thomas, the mass is operable. That's the good news. But it needs to come out soon. Weeks, not months." Then a billing coordinator named Nina explained the bad news. My insurance had a gap for the procedure. The surgical team required a deposit before booking the room. $3,500. There are numbers that look small until they stand between you and breathing. I sat in my old Silverado and did the math 6 different ways. Every answer was no. My credit was still wrecked. The house had no usable equity. Elaine's accounts were protected. And my son had just landed an account worth more money than I had seen in a decade. So I called him. Grant answered on the 4th ring. "Dad, can this wait? We're at Perry's. I need to talk to you about something serious." He sighed, covered the phone, then came back. "Go." I told him about the mass, the surgery, and the deposit. I told him I hated asking, but I needed help by the end of the week. For 1 second, he was quiet long enough for me to hope. Then his voice went flat. "You know how hard I worked to escape your mess? Now you want me to throw money into another one of your emergencies? Grant, this is surgery. You brought this on yourself. Ask the hospital for a payment plan. I might not have time." Then asked Sophie. "Teachers get paid, don't they?" A woman laughed in the background. He lowered his voice. "I have a reputation now, Dad. I can't have people thinking I bankroll your failures." The line went dead. I called Elaine next. I thought maybe his mother could reach him. Don't you dare make him feel guilty, she snapped. He worked too hard to get away from all this. Sophie has a stable job. Ask her. So I did the most humiliating thing I have ever done. 2 days later, I met my daughter at a diner off Highway 90, slid into a vinyl booth, and tried to pretend I only wanted catfish. She knew before I said a word. Dad, she said, setting down her fork. Tell me. I barely got through the story. I had not even finished asking when Sophie reached into her bag and placed an envelope beside my coffee. Then she turned her phone around. Approved. Payday loan. $1,500. There is $2,000 cash in the envelope, she said. I sold the Civic this morning. I could not speak. Sophie, no. Cars can be replaced. You can't. That is where I broke. Not in the hospital parking lot. Not when my son hung up. Right there in front of a waitress named June, while my daughter held my hand across a sticky diner table and told me I was going to live. The surgery happened the following Thursday at 6 in the morning. The last thing I remember before the anesthesia was Sophie's face close to mine. You're too stubborn to die, old man, she whispered. I woke 11 hours later with pain across my chest and Dr. Mercer leaning over me. We got it all, he said. Clean margins. I felt lucky. But mostly I thought about Sophie's car sitting on some dealer's lot and my daughter standing at a bus stop before sunrise because she had traded her own comfort for my life. I spent the next 2 weeks recovering on Sophie's pull-out couch. Elaine never called to ask how surgery went. Grant never texted. Sophie taped her bus schedule to the refrigerator beside a photo of us at a 4th of July picnic. Every morning I looked at it and felt the same burn in my chest. She had $12 left in checking because of me. On the 16th day after surgery, the mail carrier knocked on Sophie's apartment door. I was alone, moving slowly in a robe. Certified mail, he said. 2 letters. One was from the Environmental Protection Agency. I had seen that return address for 10 years and hated it every time. Usually it meant more waiting, more restrictions, more reminders that my life had been buried under someone else's spill. I opened it anyway. Site release from federal oversight. Remediation complete. Effective July 14th. I read it 3 times. For 10 years, that land had been a curse. Now the government was telling me it was clean. My hands shook when I opened the second letter. It came from Cornerstone Golf Development. While my 60 acres sat frozen, the Grand Parkway expansion had finally arrived exactly where I once believed it would. A new interchange sat less than half a mile away. Commercial zoning had followed. Cornerstone wanted to buy it. $15 million cash. 30-day close. I did not shout. I did not laugh. I sat very still at Sophie's little kitchen table and looked at her bus schedule on the refrigerator. 3 weeks earlier, I had cried over $3,500. Now I was holding $15 million. I did not call Elaine. I did not call Grant. I called Calvin Price. Calvin had handled my business paperwork before the spill. He had stayed with me when most professionals stopped returning my calls because I paid what I owed, even if it took months. Thomas, he said. How are you feeling? Better than yesterday. I need you to pull a document. What document? The partition agreement Elaine made me sign 5 years ago. The one Grant pushed for. Calvin went quiet. I remember it, he said. Read me the important part. 2 hours later, he called back. Elaine Wade waived and released any present or future marital claim, legal or equitable, in the Fort Bend County property, including proceeds, appreciation, or value realized from it, regardless of cause. Regardless of cause. 5 years earlier, when the land still looked like a debt trap, Grant had convinced Elaine to protect herself. She took the house and her retirement accounts as separate property. I took 100% of the contaminated land and every liability attached to it. They called it smart. They called it necessary. Now the same document meant the land, and every dollar from it, belonged to me alone. Can she touch the sale proceeds? I asked. No, Calvin said. Not if the agreement is upheld, and it is very clear. Then move on Cornerstone. Quietly. Thomas. After my debts are paid, I want the rest placed in an irrevocable trust for Sophie. All of it. He breathed out slowly. All of it? She sold her car so I could live. Grant told me to get a payment plan. Elaine told me not to bother him. I am done pretending equal treatment is the same thing as justice. By the end of that month, the sale closed. My old debts were cleared. Sophie's payday loan was paid off before another cent of interest could touch her. A new car was purchased in the trust's name. A house was placed under contract near her school. Money was set aside for the tutoring program she had always wanted to start for children who could not afford extra help. I told Sophie only what she needed to know at first, that a deal had come through and she would never ride that bus again unless she wanted to. Then, 8 days after closing, Grant found out. He did not learn it from me. He saw a deed memorandum in the commercial registry tied to Cornerstone Golf Development, and recognized the parcel. That evening, he pounded on Sophie's apartment door like he owned it. Dad! Open up! Sophie opened the door in her teacher clothes, exhausted and unimpressed. You want to explain why you're beating on my door like the police? Grant pushed past her. Elaine followed, arms crossed, jaw tight. Neither one asked how I was healing. Neither looked at my scar or the oxygen tubing near the couch. Grant's dress shirt was wrinkled. His tie hung loose. Sweat marked his collar. You sold it, he said. 15 million. You sold the land and hid it from us. I closed the sale, I said. Elaine's face changed. For once, her anger had fear behind it. 15 million? Grant jabbed a finger toward me. You sat on a fortune while Mom drove a 10-year-old Camry. You let this family suffer so you could hand everything to your favorite child. I almost admired how fast he rewrote history. I learned the land was released while recovering on your sister's couch, I said. The couch she gave me after she paid for the surgery you refused. His face hardened. Mom is filing for divorce. My lawyer will freeze every account connected to that sale. Hidden marital assets are fraud, Dad. You are not getting away with this. He slammed his palm on Sophie's kitchen table. Something in me went quiet. Don't hit my daughter's table again, I said. Then I reached into my folder and slid the first document to Elaine. Do you remember this? She stared down at the partition agreement. The color drained from her face before she reached the second paragraph. You wanted protection from my debt, I said. Grant arranged the meeting. Your lawyer drafted it. You took the house and retirement. I took the land. You signed away every present and future claim to that property, including proceeds and appreciation, regardless of cause. Grant grabbed the document and scanned it. That doesn't mean, it means exactly what you thought it meant when the land was worthless, I said. You just hate what it means now. Then I slid the second paper across the table. Sophie's bank statement. $12. That was your sister's checking account after she sold her car and took a payday loan so I could get on an operating table. While you were drinking scotch, she was standing at a bus stop before dawn to teach fourth graders on a salary you would mock at dinner. No one spoke. You want court? Go. Tell a judge your mother deserves the property she legally refused. Tell him you advised her to refuse it. Then explain where you were when your father needed $3,500 to keep breathing. Elaine opened her mouth, but nothing came out. The trust is finalized, I said. Irrevocable. Sophie gets everything after my debts. The loan is paid. Her car is replaced. Her house is being finished. Her tutoring program is funded. You are both free from my mistakes now. Isn't that what you always wanted? Grant looked at me like the words had physically struck him. This is cruel, Elaine whispered. No, I said. Cruel was telling a sick man to ask his daughter while your son toasted $12 million. This is a receipt. I stood carefully, my ribs still aching, and pointed to the door. Get out of my daughter's home. For the first time in 31 years of marriage and 31 years of raising Grant, they left without a final word. No threats. No slammed door. Just silence. After they were gone, Sophie stood in the kitchen with both hands over her mouth. Dad, she whispered. You didn't have to give me all of it. Yes, I said. I did. I put my arm around her, careful of my ribs, and we stood there in the little apartment that had saved my life. Months later, Sophie moved into her house. The tutoring program opened in a converted storefront with bright windows and donated bookshelves. I still live simply. I still drive the old Silverado. I still cough sometimes when the weather turns. But every morning, I wake up knowing exactly who my family is. Family is not the loudest person at the steakhouse. It is not the child with the biggest account or the spouse who stays only until the money runs thin. Family is the daughter who sells her car without being asked. And sometimes, when justice finally arrives, it does not kick down the door. It comes certified mail.